Hello and welcome or welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. We are on our final browns ink exploration today, and that is just going to be your standard brown inks. I've already done dark browns and light browns, so if you're interested in those videos, I will have them linked in the playlist in the description and also up in the cards, and you can go watch those if you so choose. But as for supplies today, I have my A5 Hobonichi notebook here with the original Tomoe River paper. I have 12 inks that we're going to be doing today. A little tape dispenser here which has a hole that I've been using to hold the sample vials, which is inspired by Karina Loves to Plan. For writing utensil today, I will be using my Kakimori brass dip pen with the Sakura wood handle that I got from Galen Leather, but you can also get it at Atlas Stationers now, I believe. I have a little plastic dropper here, a steel condiment cup, which was inspired by Leanne Likes, a old white t-shirt that I've been using as like my ink rag, and then I have 2 jars of water. I have one right here, and then I have one over there in case this one gets extra dirty. But for now, I want to go ahead and get started, and we'll just jump right into this first ink right over here. So for the first ink we have today, we have a discontinued one, unfortunately, and this is Pilot Iroshizuku's Tsukushi, which is Horsetail. This ink is honestly one of my favorite browns to write with, mainly because it's a Pilot Iroshizuku, and I feel like they just have some of the best writing quality in terms of inks. I have never been disappointed with a Pilot Iroshizuku ink that I have used. In terms of coloring, Tsukushi could be considered more of a dark brown, but I think it is pretty standard when it dries down. Overall, the color tone of it is pretty neutral. It may lean a little bit cooler or warmer depending on how you look at it. It does have a bit of a green sheen, so maybe it would be considered a little bit more warm, but overall I feel like Tsukushi is just a very neutral brown ink. The next ink we have here is a sample from Goulet, and this is Monteverde Scotch Brown. Overall, Scotch Brown is a very warm, almost reddish brown color. I really like the shading that it has in terms of kind of like a medium to dark brown color. This one, again, like the Tsukushi, might be considered a little bit more dark brown, but I still think it's very neutral in terms of an overall color being brown versus super light or super dark. The next ink we have here is Café des Iles. I think that's how you pronounce it. My French is not very good, so if you have the proper pronunciation, please leave it in the comments for everybody else in case I do mispronounce something. In terms of brown inks, this Café ink is kind of like a coffee, like a light medium roast coffee color, which I honestly am kind of curious as to what the title actually stands for since there's a coffee bean on the bottle. But I really enjoy the look of this ink in terms of how it shades. Again, I definitely am enjoying my brown shading inks, but this one is a bit of a dry writer, so if you don't really like super dry inks or you have a very wet flowing pen, this ink would probably behave very well. In some of the pens that I've tried it in, it was really hard to get it started. And as you probably saw when I started writing with the dip pen even, it was very thin. And once I had dipped it in more ink, it flowed a lot better. So it just depends on this one, I feel like, if you have a good pen or a dry pen, on how it's going to write for you. But the color is overall a very nice neutral brown color. The next ink sample I have here is a Ferris Wheel Press, and this one is Steeped Umber. This one might be considered a little bit more of a dark brown, kind of like the other ones on this page, but I still think it's a lot more brown, I guess. If you watched my dark brown video, you'll know that I used Beaver Dam Brown as the actual dark brown that I wanted from Ferris Wheel Press. This one I feel like is a little bit more medium, and that's why I wanted to include it in this color family, but you guys let me know because it may still be a pretty dark brown. Much like the Herbin inks, Ferris Wheel Press tends to be a little bit on the drier side in my opinion, but in terms of color range, they have a whole bunch of colors out there, so if you have anything in particular you're looking for, Ferris Wheel Press has probably made it at some point, with or without shimmer. Luckily, this brown does not have any shimmer, and it will showcase the beautiful shading that it already has. But I will say with this one, it's a bit redder, almost like an orangey red brown color, but it's still very medium, and I think that's, I don't know, part of the appeal. But the shading is really nice, and I also think that's another part of the appeal for this specific brown. Next, we have the only document brown ink that I will probably ever write with, and that is DeAtramentis Document Brown. If you do not like writing with black ink, but you like writing with brown ink and you wanted something very permanent, I highly recommend this Document Brown ink from DeAtramentis. Their Document Black ink is fabulous, but their brown ink, so much better in my opinion. Maybe I'm a little biased because I do like writing with brown ink, but I think this one is definitely one of the winners from their Document line. One thing I have noticed in regularity with the DeAtramentis inks, and I've talked about this in a lot of my ink explorations, is they are incredibly juicy. Sometimes to the point where it's probably too wet, but in pens that are really dry, it is very beneficial. I personally really enjoy this Document Brown ink. Again, it's probably one of the ones I would definitely get a bottle of from their Document line. It is pretty standard in terms of sheen, shade, things like that, but the flow, the color, overall just behavior, it's a quality one in my opinion. And I'm almost done with this sample from Goulet, and I'm trying to decide if I want to get a bottle now or if I want to make it through some of my other brown inks before I get a bottle. I can't decide. The next ink we have here is the only shimmer I'm including in the browns, and this is from the Diamine Inkvent calendar from 2022, and this one is Yule Log. If you are a fan of the ink Dusted Truffle from the 2022 Inkvent, I think this one's honestly better. This ink is the most beautiful warm brown color with a darker brown shade, and it has this gorgeous, and I mean gorgeous, like coppery rose gold shimmer on it. It is stunning. I love this ink so much. It screams, you know, fall to me. It screams winter. I mean, it was part of an Inkvent, which is usually like a Christmassy type color is my guess, but this one is definitely one I will be using in the fall months because it is so beautiful. I love this color. This year's Inkvent from Diamine was stunning. I'm really tempted to get the 2023 one, but I haven't made the purchase yet, so we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm really satisfied with the one I got from 2022. The next ink we have here is another Herbin ink. I think this one is more of their expensive line. This is Jaques Herbin, and it's Lead Té. I believe this one is supposed to be like the color of tea. I think it's a little bit darker than most of the teas that I drink, but maybe I'm not steeping my tea leaves long enough. I'm not sure. I absolutely love how warm this brown is. In terms of it being more of a medium brown color, it does have some nice darker brown shading to it, but the overall base is definitely a warm medium brown. I do still think it looks maybe like if you had spilled a lot of tea maybe onto a page, but it's not going to leave like a tea staining effect. I think it's a little too dark for that, but I really do enjoy this ink, and I have found that it is one of the wetter Herbin inks, and I don't know if it's because it's part of their Jaques Herbin line or if it's just this ink in particular. The next ink I have here is KWZ Cappuccino. I love this ink. I've talked about KWZ as a brand on a couple of my other videos now, and it does have a vanilla scent to it. That is something that I learned, that all of their inks have the same scent. So if you are not a fan of scents, I would probably stay away from this brand. But in terms of ink, this is one of my favorites, and I actually inked this up in my iced caramel latte Bennu that I got from Goulet pens, and it is one of my favorite ink combinations I think I've ever done. I'm tempted to just make that pen solely for this ink, but I think I have too many inks to do that, so I don't know if we're gonna make that happen or not. But it is a gorgeous medium brown color. It has dark brown shading, It is so beautiful. The lighter version to me is KWZ Honey, where it's a little bit more yellow, a little bit more muddy. With this one, it is definitely a good coffee color and a medium brown in my opinion. The next ink sample I have here is DeAtramentis Document Urban Sienna. So I already talked about Document Brown, which is probably one of my favorite from the Document line, but this one is a very interesting color. In terms of Document inks, this one is a little bit too light in what I would want to keep as like a document style ink. If I'm keeping it forever, I want to be able to read it forever, and I feel like the lighter inks are harder to read for me, so I probably wouldn't buy a lot of this one. I definitely will finish out my sample, but overall in terms of color, it's a little too light in terms of what I would want to be a medium brown. However, I will say it is still more of a medium brown versus a light brown in my opinion. I don't know, I don't think it's quite dark, I don't think it's quite light enough to be a light brown, and I don't think it's quite dark enough to be a dark brown, but it does have a little bit of minor shading that is a bit medium, and in writing samples, it's just like a lighter medium brown. I do think maybe since it is a warmer brown, that it might be why it comes off a little bit lighter, but I don't know, it's okay. I still prefer the plain Document Brown, but if you wanted something a bit warmer, this probably wouldn't be a bad choice. I don't see myself using this one as much as I would use the regular Document Brown color. Next, we have a new ink to me. I recently got this from Vanessa, and this is Taccia's Tsuchi Golden Wheat. I might be butchering that one, guys, but I was really excited to try another Taccia ink. I think their brand is so unique with the pens that they make, and their inks are really unique as well. In terms of coloring, this one is a very nice warm medium brown. It has some gorgeous shading to it, and I honestly feel like it's kind of like a toasted maple syrup color. Whenever I see it in a swatch, it looks really, I don't know, like I want to put it on my pancakes. I know that's probably not what they were going for, considering it's like a golden wheat color. Maybe it's supposed to be more of like a toasted bread color. I don't know. But it definitely is a maple syrupy like color to me, and I love the way it shades when it dries down. In terms of ink behavior, I love the consistency of the Taccia inks. They're really thick, like the viscosity is thicker, but it's not gummy. I feel like they're just, I don't know, I feel like no matter how good your pen is or how bad your pen is, it's going to lay down the same amount of quality each time you write with it. I haven't had the chance to write with it in terms of like a gold nib versus a steel nib yet. I've only really done swatches with it and with my dip pen and writing in my little ink books. Overall though, I'm really happy with everything I've gotten so far. I've used it with a glass dip pen, I've used it with this brass dip pen, and I've used it with one of the little steel nib pens that are just like dippy ones, and every time it's looked really good. So I'm excited to put this one in a pen at some point, but for now, I just love looking at the swatch. It's just so pretty. The last ink sample we have is one of my favorites, and that is Robert Oster's Cafe Crema. I really enjoy the coloring on this one as well. Much like the Taccia, it's more of a warm medium brown color. It does have a little bit of shading to it, which makes it pretty unique, especially in big journaling pages. I feel like it shades very well. And considering that it is a Robert Oster ink, I feel like they do shading very, very well in general. I will say though, this color compared to some of the other ones may seem a little bit flat, almost muddy or dusty, but it's still a beautiful color. I really love how it shades. I love how it writes, and I feel like Robert Oster inks are generally pretty fairly priced. Some of them are a bit more expensive than others, depending on if they're one of their specialty ones, but I really like this one, and I would definitely buy more of it. I don't know if I'd be able to go through a full bottle, considering I have so many other browns that I really love, but I definitely would get another sample of it and use that up a second time once I finish this one. And the last brown ink I have here is Akkerman's SBRE Brown, and I just want to take a moment for this bottle. It is so incredibly cool. If you tip it over like this, all of the ink goes into this top part of the vial, and then you can slowly trickle it out because there's this little glass bead right here in the middle of the neck, where it separates the ink from the top and the ink from the bottom. I just think it is such a unique bottle. I think it's called their Dutch Masters bottle. Anyways, this is my pride and joy. I waited so long for this ink to come back in stock. I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't get a sample from anybody. I wanted to try this ink so bad because I thought it would be the perfect match for my 𝗪𝗏𝗏 in Tortoise. And when they finally restocked it on Vanessa, I got the email notification and I immediately went to purchase because I was not about to lose my chance. I don't know if they still have it in stock or not. You'd have to go check, but I was very happy to be able to get a full bottle of this and not just a sample. In terms of coloring, SBRE brown is very much of an orangey red brown color, probably much like the 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 that I did for the light browns, but this one is, the shading is just chef's kiss. It is so beautiful. I love the way it looks in writing pages. I think I am definitely going to make it my permanent ink for my 𝗪𝗏𝗏 in Tortoise. I love this. I'm so glad to have been able to get a bottle and show you guys and compare it with all the other browns because it is such a unique color and I have not been able to find anything else like it in terms of color, shading, and like overall general ink property. I will say that if you are unable to get this ink, I'd probably say the next closest one from the same brand is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏, but it's a little bit more orange. So it depends, I guess. I know there's some blogs out there that have tried to compare SBRE brown to other inks, and I think there's a couple of Diamine ones that are pretty close, but there's nothing really like the real thing, unfortunately. Much like, you know, Tsukushi or 𝗍𝗏, those two are kind of like their own category as well. Alright, so I'm going to let all of these finish drying down, and I'm actually kind of losing a little bit of daylight, so when you come back I will have another light on so we can just kind of light this up a little bit more. It's still going to look very natural. I will still use the daylight as much as I can to get the correct coloring on all of this, but I just wanted to be pretty transparent with you on that one for this ink exploration. But I will see you guys in a minute. Okay, so I am back. Everything is pretty much dried down. I'm in a race against the sun, as you can see, but I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in and we'll get some close-up shots of all of these beautiful inks. Starting with the very first swatch we did here, Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi, or Horsetail. I hope you guys can see that beautiful green sheen on this bad boy and that gorgeous darker brown shading. Again, this one might be considered a little bit more dark brown than medium brown, but I absolutely love this ink. I'm so glad that I have it, and I'm so sad that it is discontinued. Next we had Monteverde's Scotch Brown. Again, a pretty darker medium brown color, but I do like it. It's a bit warmer, kind of orangey reddish brown color. It does have a very, very mild black sheen. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but I still like this one as like a standard medium brown. If you needed like a really good office ink, I think this one would be a very good choice. Then we had Herbin's Café d'Iles, or Café des Iles. I'm not, again, sure how to pronounce this one. It is a very dark kind of shade right there, the darker brown, I guess, with the black sheen. I think it's very nice, but the overall base is definitely a medium brown color. It is a bit warmer than, I guess, yeah, like more of a reddish brown color. Again, like all of the neighbors up here, but I think it's a very dry ink, so just keep that in mind. If you were to pick this one up, it probably needs a very wet flowing pen, or you may have to alter it with some other kind of ink alternatives. Then we had Ferris Press Steeped Umber. Again, this one has a very, very minor black sheen, but the shading is gorgeous. It has that kind of warm, again, reddish brown undertone with the darker brown shading in the middle there. A very nice standard ink. Again, one I think would be very work appropriate, but it's just a little too dry for my flavors. I would want something a little bit more wet flowing. Then we had Diamine's Document Brown. I still love this one. It is such a unique document ink to me. The color is brown, but it's also kind of brown black. I don't know. You guys tell me. It looks really gray on my little viewfinder, but I don't know. It is definitely very brown in person, and it does have a very minor sheen to it. I wouldn't say it's like a normal sheen on a fountain pen ink. I think it's just part of the document style ink in this case. But the color is one of my more favorite documents that DeAtramentis has done. Then we had Diamine's Yule Log. Look at the shimmer. Oh, it's so pretty. This one is so unique in color. It has kind of like a medium brown, warm, yellowish brown color as the base. It has a darker brown shade to it and that beautiful coppery rose gold shimmer. Again, the ink font for 2022, man, there was a lot of winners in it for sure. I'm really tempted to get the one for 2023. And it's the purple edition, so I wonder if they're all going to have like a purple ink as the main ink. Next we had Jaques Herbin Lie. This one again has a very nice shade to it. It's that dark, almost black brown shade with that kind of more tea, honestly, colored base. It does have a very minor black sheen to it. It does have a little wet spot on it, which is what the really shiny part is, but overall, the shading on this one is stunning, and this one's a lot more wet than the other Herbin ink that I did, so I don't know, again, if that is just because this is the Jaques Herbin version, or if it's just this ink in particular. Then we had one of my favorites, KWZ Cappuccino. Look at the sheen, it's so pretty. It does have a black sheen to it. It does have a nice dark black brown shading in the middle there, and a very almost yellowy medium brown undertone. I really love this one. I love putting this one in my menu. I'm not kidding. It was such a good pairing. I was so happy with it. Then we had DeAtramentis Document Urban Sienna, and after swatching this with all of the other ones that I considered more regular brown, this is definitely a light brown color, and I am so sorry that I didn't include it in the light brown ink exploration, but that is the whole point of these videos, to find ones that actually fit in their categories. So this one I would definitely say is a light brown and not a medium brown. But again, the color is just not my favorite. It's a good beigey brown color in terms of a document ink, but I think if I were going to go for a document style ink, I would want it to be a darker color that I would be able to read again for a very long time. Then we had Taccia's Tsuchi, I think it's Tsuchi, Golden Wheat. It's got this kind of really pretty, almost greenish black sheen to it. The shading is stunning. As I said, it's got that warm yellowish, like maple syrupy color, and then the inside is like toast. Maybe that's why it's golden wheat. It's got like maple syrup and toast. That makes sense, right? Anyways, I really love the consistency of the Taccia inks. I want to try out some more of them. I have a couple more that I recently picked up, so I'll definitely hopefully give y'all an update one of these days of all the new inks in my collection, but I really enjoyed this one, and I think the shading on it is really, really pretty. Then we had Robert Oster's Cafe Crema. This is definitely a favorite among many, and it is a favorite in my collection as well. It does have a very minor black sheen. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but the shading is very nice in terms of like a light medium brown color to a darker brown color, and in writing the shading shows up very well, which is something that I have experienced with a lot of Robert Oster inks. Overall, I think this color is gorgeous, but it is a little bit more flat than some of the other ones on this page, so I wouldn't consider it my favorite of all time, but it is definitely one of my more favorite ones to write with. And then we had my pièce de résistance, which is Akkerman's SBRE Brown. I guess this one is such a big deal to me because it took me so long to get it, and I'm really happy to have it in my collection. It does have a black sheen to it. As you can see, it has that kind of like orangey brown base with a little bit of a darker shade to it. It is not super drastic in the shading, I will say that, but in writing, it is so pretty. And I do have this one inked up in my September inks, so if you're interested in how that's going, be sure to check out my currently inked video, and then I will have a progress report as well at the end of September. But yeah, this one I am so happy with, so happy with. Alrighty, that is it for my medium brown ink exploration, and unfortunately the last brown ink exploration in this category. Let me know what color you guys want me to do next. I was gonna continue on into the rainbow, but if you have a color that I have not already done, I'd be happy to do that one next. Just let me know in the comments. If you are interested in any of the other ink explorations I have done, I'll be sure to leave a playlist down in the description and also put it up in the cards, and y'all can watch those at your own leisure. I have done several colors already, but I'm excited to continue on into the color families. Let me know which one was your favorite, or if you have a side of the page that you think is a bit more accurate in terms of medium browns. I definitely feel like this one is a little bit more medium brown, and this one is a little bit more of like the special brown colors. I don't know. This one's like brown, and this is like warm brown. It's up for debate, so let me know what you think. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today and swatching all these inks with me, and I will definitely be on the lookout for some more fun brown colors, because this is definitely one of my favorite ink colors to write with. But for now, again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.